Okay. And all right, so here we go. All right, so welcome to Cash Credit Budget Home Buyer Seminar. All right. Just a few housekeeping things. If you could stay on mute, that would help just with the sound. If you have questions, please put them in the chat. We will be answering questions at the end, but we may answer some questions throughout. Just feel free to put them in the chat though, and we'll do our best to get to every question. I did know, and as people come and join, still, I know people are having some difficulties, weather and everything. So we'll just catch them up. All right. So your speakers today. So I am Angel Perry. I am with Keller Williams Elite. All my social media. I am also Angel Perry Homes. We have with us as well Langston Ellington. He will not be speaking at this time. He is a bit under the weather. And so, but he's here in spirit and physicality on video. All right. He is another agent with Keller Williams Elite. And then we have our loan officer, Lety Gamboa. She is a mortgage loan officer with Neighborhood Loans. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and get started going. So some of the things we'll cover today. The concept was cash credit budget. So when we're talking cash, talking about just the cost of everything, but within of purchasing a home, when we're talking cash, there's also your budget, thinking about how much money you have, how much money you need to get a hold of, those types of things. But we're going to really focus in on what all the money needed to purchase a home. Okay. And we'll give you estimations. When we talk credit, we'll talk about your FICO versus Vantage score and kind of dig into that some. I will say none of us are credit specialists. Okay. But we do have some basic understanding and have got some resources to be able to share with you all. All right. But we will provide, information about credit report and credit score tips just to be able to help you out. What I have found is that, we make the decision, we want to buy a house, and then we look at our credit score and we look at it from like all these different angles, and we're like, what in the world is going on? All right. So we need to figure out how to get that together so that we can be able to purchase that home. And then budget. Budget is a big thing. All right. How much house can you afford? How much money do you have on hand now? How much will you have on hand? How much, we want to make sure that you know what you can work with and what you truly can afford. Just because you may get approved for to be able to buy a $400,000 home, should you really do that? Should you look at maybe bringing that down to make sure that your payment and everything is something that's workable for you? And to be able to save maybe for a down payment or for closing costs, what does your budget now look like? What do you need to do to be able to save that money so that you can be able to have the money to purchase your home? Okay. And then also think about when you're doing that budget, you know what your payment will be when you get in that house. You want to be able to keep that house. So what will your budget be when you get into that house, and not to cut back too much. All right. Okay. So I have here the steps to home ownership. Now I'm just going to go through these. I'm not going to dig too super deep in them because I did a presentation in January that's on YouTube now. And I will be doing another one in April, digging really into each step of home ownership. So we'll go over it some. So the first step is to hire an agent. Okay. I say that because when you make that decision, you need someone you can partner with to help you through that process. And that's what your agent does. Your real estate agent is there to partner with you and support you through the process. They can help refer you to a lender. They can help you. I mean, they're not there just to open the door so that you can be able to view their home. They're your partner to help you get through the process, and your partner even after you're in the home. So that's why I say hire an agent first, no matter where you're at, even if it's a year out, even if it's 2 years out, because then they can at least help you and give you those reminders. I like to pop up and give reminders and check in with people so that I can be able to know, hey, are you still on track? When you make a decision to buy a home, it's a big decision. And if you got things you need to take care of, sometimes it can feel overwhelming. You're just like, and you can kind of lose that goal because so many other things happen. Life happens, right? So I like to say, hire your agent first, then they're there with you so they can help check in with you, see if you're meeting your goals. You know, what can we do to make adjustments? There to support you and be your biggest cheerleader when you're like, oh my God, I love this house, but I'm not there yet. That's all right. Next would be secure pre-approved financing. So I am going to ask Lety to speak to the difference between pre-approved and pre-qualified, but you want to be pre-approved with your financing. So Lety, can you go ahead and share the difference between that?
Yes, of course. And thank you, Angel. Can you guys hear me?
I can.
Okay, awesome. Thank you for inviting me and being able to speak on all of these topics. I've been in the real estate and mortgage business for the past 10 years and have worked in every aspect of the process. So I know what it takes from beginning to end. And I really love working with clients upfront, like Angel mentioned. Support and having a good team behind you is really important. Angel and I, Langston and I will work together as a team to make sure that you're fully aware and really comfortable with the steps that you're taking, moving forward. So the main difference, the biggest difference is between pre-qualification and pre-approval is the pre-qualification is giving you an estimate of how much you can be approved for on your purchase without actually thoroughly reviewing, everything, all the documentation, which would be your credit, your income and employment history, and also, to be able to source where the down payment funds will be coming from. So it's really important to get pre-approved. To some people, it might be a little scarier. They might not want to have their credit reviewed right away at first, but it's definitely recommended. That's one of the biggest first steps you could do. Of course, hire your agent, and then also secure your pre-approval, because if there is anything that you need to work on, we can kind of just, get that out of the way right away. Hopefully, if it's an easy fix, or say you're just ready to go and you can literally go and buy a house tomorrow, at least you know what your purchasing power is. And again, with the support of your agent, they're going to help you find the perfect home that meets your goals for you and your family. And then where I come in, I'll be your expert when it comes to the financing to let you know what programs are available for you, including first-time homebuyer grant programs. There's a lot out there. There's a lot of information. So again, we work together as a team with your realtor, yourself, your family, to make sure you are fully aware of all the loan programs available to you, and answer any questions, get any doubts out of the way with your pre-approval, so that you can just move forward with the project, with the purchase process.
All right. Thank you, Lety. All right. So then once we have that pre-approval, we will find your home. We will start a search based on what is within your budget based on that pre-approval. Okay. So what I like to do is, and I know what Langston likes to do is, we like to know what are your needs versus your wants. Like, what are your things you definitely need and feel like you need to have in the home, and what are just things that would be nice to have, your wants. Then we also like to look at area. Okay. Can you be anywhere within 30 minutes of your job if you have to commute? I know a lot of people are working from home, but I mean, now, since a lot of people are working from home, do you actually have to be in a certain area? It may open you up to more opportunities. So we need to really look at that and see what that looks like for you. All right. Once we find a home, then we'll go ahead and view the home. All right. And make sure, look around, look at everything, make sure it's really going to fit for you, fit for your family, and work out. Next would be to make an offer on that home and some negotiations. Now, we are currently in a seller's market, so that does change things a bit. Whereas you might have been able to ask them to pay, help pay some of your closing costs. Now, that may put you, if you get into a multiple bidding situation, that may kind of put you out of the equation with a seller right now, because they are really going for highest and best offer in a lot of places very quickly. But it doesn't mean that it's not possible. There's also other possibilities like new construction homes, which offer a lot of opportunity as well. So we'll make an offer, do any type of negotiation that's necessary. And then once we go under contract, we'll see about getting your home inspected and see if there's any repairs that we need to negotiate. Now, usually we want to look at and focus on big major mechanical things like furnace. What about your heating and cooling? If you want to talk about the roof, what condition is that in? The plumbing, the electrical, those type of things. If there's little things like, okay, well, maybe there's like this gash in the wall. Well, is it a big gash? Maybe you don't like the paint. You can paint, may not love to paint, but some of those more cosmetic things are not things that you would negotiate within your contract when the home is being inspected and you're going back and talking to the seller. All right. Once there's an agreement, we know if there's going to be any repairs needed or not. And we're still good. We'll get our clear to close from our lender. And then we'll be able to close on the home and you will get your keys. All right. So closing looks like a bit different, of course, because of COVID. A lot of it is via video conference, but before you go, you will have that, you'll know from your lender more information about what you need to bring to closing. So Lety, do you want to kind of speak on that for me, please?
Yeah, and of course, just let me say it's really exciting that you guys are on here because, to be honest, the part of getting your pre-approval is the easiest part. It really is. It's just a few documents that we need, and then the rest of the process moves forward once you find the home that you love, which Angel and Langston are going to be really great about helping you find the perfect place, and that part's really exciting. So once you have your pre-approval, the rest of the process just rolls a lot faster, a lot easier. I think actually the hardest part is probably choosing the right home, right? That might be the toughest part, is like deciding which one you actually want. But yeah, as far as the closing, a lot of the closings actually I haven't had any virtual closings take place yet. My company doesn't really do that. You still go in person and sign the paperwork, but they restrict how many people can be there. Before you can be there with your spouse and things like that. Now they kind of just recommend that only the people that are actually required to sign anything go. So they keep that to a minimum. Your lender and your agent can't really be there, but we'll be there definitely by phone, which is even better in case anything comes up that we need to, address that in there. We can do that. So you will get what's called and this is now a new compliance, it's been around for a few years now, but 3 days prior to your closing, by law, at least 3 days, you have to get a loan estimate. It's actually called a closing disclosure. That's going to give you a very close figure of how much you can expect to bring at the closing, how much funds you'll be expected to bring. And with all the programs out there, I was telling Angel and Langston about best case scenario, if you use a down payment assistance program, you might only need to come in with 1% of the purchase price, and we can get into that a little bit more. But yeah, throughout the whole process, you'll be up to date. Any changes that go on with your loan that affect your purchase price or your loan amount, you'll get an update. Again, by law, we have to make sure we're within compliance and keeping you up to date with all of the costs associated with your loan. It's really heavily regulated now, so you're not gonna be blindsided when you come to closing. Like, well, Lety, you gave me this estimate in the beginning, and now you're telling me I have to come up with this much more. Lenders have been really great now, especially my company, about really disclosing and being pretty close to that estimate towards the end. So the whole process, again, trust your team. We'll make sure everything is handled, and if anything does come up, we'll address it. So any other questions about the closing, let me know. If you guys have any other questions, remember to write it down or leave it in the chat so that we can go over everything towards the end of this segment here.
All right. Thank you, Lety. All right. So moving on. All right. Cost of buying a home. All right. So I have 10 categories here. We have our down payment. This will differ if you get down payment assistance, or this will differ by like your loan type. If you have a VA loan, there's no down payment, but Lety can speak more to those things. Closing costs, I will have Lety speak to those things as well, but that's a percentage of what you would need to bring to the table, and it's going to cover different lender fees, credit report, those different types of things. And they'll give you a breakdown at your closing. Earnest money, now this can differ. Normally I've done where the earnest money is usually about $500. It's your good faith estimate. It's you showing the seller like, yes, I want this home. This is what I want. This is how I'm showing you that I want it. Now I have had people request up to $1,000 or more, or 1% of the purchase price when I've been doing a contract. So it does really depend on the situation and the circumstances. New construction, sometimes it's usually about 1% of the purchase price is what they would prefer in earnest money. Now, if you're buying a resale home, a non-new construction, something someone's lived in for a while or a couple people have lived in, when it comes down to earnest money and maybe you start out with 500, but they come back and say highest and best offer. If you increase your earnest money, sometimes that helps too with your bidding offer. All right. Attorney fees. So I suggest that you have an attorney who represents you and who's there for you, and they also attend the closing. So they would help with the negotiations as far as the home inspection, and they would do an attorney review and negotiate with the seller's attorney. So it helps to have someone else on your team to help represent you. The cost ranges. It really depends on the real estate attorney, and it depends on the type of property. $600 would be more of a residential, $2,000 would be more if it's commercial property. So for all of you, most likely it is a single family home, residential, then it would be more in the $600 range. And these are just ranges. It really depends on the attorney and what they charge. Some will go ahead and ask for the money up front. Some will ask for maybe a portion up front, and then some will wait until the closing and then ask you to pay them, but they're not paid through the closing. There's also city transfer tax, depending on, not all towns or villages have a city transfer tax, but that the city does, and then some of the suburbs do as well. Inspections, home inspection, that ranges because it depends on who the home inspector is. It also and what they charge. It also depends on what all you have them do. If you add on radon testing, which is done out here in the suburbs quite a bit, then it could put you more in that $500, $550, $600 range as far as a home inspection. And that money is due up front when you have the home inspector come out. There's also the survey. There's 1 year of homeowners insurance. There's miscellaneous fees, and then you want to make sure you have some money in reserves if there's improvements or repairs after sale. So, but I will ask Lety, can you go ahead and speak on some of those things like down payment and closing costs?
Yeah, absolutely. So just keep in mind that a lot of these fees don't have to be paid prior to your closing date. It's all put together as part of your down payment. Down payment and closing costs kind of are interchangeable term for us as lenders. So when you get your pre-approval, I'll let you know, okay, this is how much you're estimated to have to bring to the table the day of your closing. The only other loan associated fee that you'll have to come up with out of your pocket prior to the closing would be your appraisal. And that's just because it's like a third party service, and the appraisers do, need to get paid the day that they do the service. So that will be paid prior to your closing. Also, the home inspection is not exactly the same as your appraisal. The appraisal is for the loan to guarantee that you're purchasing a home for what it's worth. You're going to purchase something for its value. You're not overpaying, for anything for the property itself. And there's another, if that ever does happen, that hasn't happened lately in this market, but there are times where it does happen and things just have to be renegotiated for the most part. All parties come to an agreement on that, but and the home inspection, that's really up to you. I know, Angel, after this, if you can touch on that a little bit, if that's really recommended. I know a lot of real estate agents really do recommend that, just so that you know the condition of the home. They're going to go more into the actual condition of the home. They're going to go in there and test light switches and everything like that, get really into the nitty gritty of the house, really look under the hood, as you could say, if you were purchasing a car, to make sure that it's in good condition. The appraisal is just an opinion of a value, a professional opinion of a value for the lender to secure the collateral and the financing. So yeah, your down payment, it can range, as I mentioned, anywhere from 1% to 20%. A common misconception that people have is that they need at least 20% down. That's not the case at all. I would say, I don't know the exact statistic now, but from my own personal experience, I would say, less 80% of the buyers that I've helped this past year definitely have put anywhere from 3 to 10% down, 10% maximum. So it really depends on your scenario, and no loan is the same, no family is the same. So everything's tailored to your needs, to your goals. Closing costs. Now these are things that are associated with the loan, such as title. There's something called prepaids. You do have to establish like an escrow account for the taxes and the insurance. So if the property taxes are a little bit higher, you can expect your closing costs to be a little bit higher too. Again, the attorney fee, that's something that will be paid at the closing. The title company will be responsible for paying your homeowner's insurance policy, your attorney fee. All of that will be done at the closing. You won't be expected to pay for any of these fees prior to. So when you get your loan estimate with the funds that you'll need to bring to the closing, that includes everything that's mentioned here. All of the, your down payment fees, the closing costs, the attorney fee, and the appraisal fee is actually included there as well. So it gives you a good idea of what you can expect to bring out of your pocket. Miscellaneous fees, another thing, it depends on the property. If it's a condo, you might have to pay for a condo questionnaire. The condo association, we have to make sure that they're in good standing, and a little bit more paperwork is required there. So that's, something else that might come up too as a miscellaneous fee. I know we have a question. Should we look into that now, Angel, or towards the end?
Yes, go ahead and answer that now. So we have, when you are approved for a loan, are those funds available for you to use for these fees we're speaking of, or just the actual home purchase?
So for a purchase, a lot of the closing costs cannot be financed when you're doing a home purchase. But what you can do is have your rockstar agents, like Langston and Angel, negotiate closing credits from the seller. So that 2 to 3% that you can expect to pay in closing costs, that can be financed essentially into your loan by negotiating a seller credit. And we can definitely get into that once we can get your loan approval out and get an understanding of what purchase point you're at, and break it down. We'll say, okay, we need at least, 3% of the purchase price to help towards their, down payment costs, and to minimize that, so that is an option, definitely. But essentially speaking, like, to directly answer your question, you cannot finance that. For most purchases, just compliance rules, you are expected to have a little skin in the game. You're expected to come up with some of your own funds. So that would be the minimum down payment funds that are required to keep in mind. Not sure if that answered your question or not, but if your goal is to minimize your closing costs, we'll definitely get there.
Yes, thank you. All right, thank you. Okay, let's move on. All right, so know where you are. All right, so let's start talking with credit. It's important for you to know where you are and where you stand. So I have a poll, and I'm going to launch the question. And I just want you should see it come up, and just let me know yes or no. Have you reviewed your credit report in the last 3 months? All right. All right, so based on the poll, everyone has reviewed their credit report in the last 3 months. That's awesome, because not everybody does that. All right. And it's important to do that. So right now, I'm going to go through these questions, but it's just kind of conversational. So have you checked Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion? All right. Those are the 3 major credit bureaus. Okay, I'm admitting somebody. Those are the 3 major credit bureaus. And right now you can get your free credit report from all 3. The credit report, not the score. The score still costs. But you can get your free credit report from all 3 every week until April. I want to say the end of April of this year. Okay. Why did they do that? Basically because we all know there's lots of scams going on. And so With the age of technology and everything, you know what? They said it's best for us to at least allow people with everything going on to be able to access their credit report every week. Also, it's good to know where you stand. You know, a lot of people are looking to buy homes like yourselves or looking to maybe refinance and sell. So there's different things going on, but it's good to know and it's where you stand and really review your report. Um, so some questions for you to consider. Do your reports have accurate info? Did you know that there's many different scores? There's not just one, there's not just one for each one of those. And did you know that scores are calculated at different times in different ways? If you ever had that time where it was like, but I looked at it here and it says this, and then I looked at it here and it says this. And you're like, and this is not showing paid off, but I did pay that off because your score is calculated at different times in different ways. So let's get into this. So credit report and score tips. And these are just tips. I'm not saying, and these are not to be done in any accurate order. Okay. Like I said, we are not credit specialists. We are just providing you with best practices information. So dispute inaccuracies. When you look at your report, if your name is misspelled, if your address is wrong, if your employer is wrong, if account balances are incorrect, it's best to dispute those inaccuracies and get that information updated. Pay all your bills on time all the time. Okay. We know life happens, things come up, but if you can consistently pay all your bills on time all the time, we know that puts you in a better state, puts your credit report and your credit score in a better position. Keep your credit utilization at 30% or less. Now, it is February. We just got through Christmas. You know, in December, we understand things happen, but it's best to keep that score in at least 30% or less. Your credit cards balances at 30% or less to be in a better standing order. Not to totally negate you or anything. It just helps, okay? Because we know your credit report is all about basically your payment history and what you've been doing and how you use your credit. Avoid creating multiple credit applications in a short period of time. Now, we know when you purchase a car and if you go to different places, they'll run your credit like crazy. You could go to one place and they could send it through like 5 different places. That's looked at differently as when it is with when you're applying for a loan for a house. So I will have Lety talk to that, but that's one of those things that it's a little different and it's viewed at differently. And there's timeframes you need to consider when you are trying to shop around and find the best mortgage or who's going to offer you the best for you and for what your situation is. If you're paying with a credit card, pay off your balance every month. Okay. I know some people who they put like all their bills on their credit cards, but then when they get paid, they just pay everything off. It shows your credit card company and everyone else that you're handling their credit appropriately, how they expect it to be handled. If you have, maybe you have a card that maybe is at like 45% the utilization. If you know that maybe your score is pretty decent, you could request a higher credit limit. Sometimes that helps to be able to help people without having to come off that money to bring it down to the 30% right away. Also, you can become an authorized user on someone else's card. Now, you won't get their card, but if it's someone who pays their bills on time, they have good credit and and they're willing to put you as an authorized user on their card, that does help boost your credit. And I know it's helped several people really boost their credit. There's also keep a good credit mix. When we talk credit mix, we're talking revolving credit lines and installment credit lines, auto loans, so credit cards, maybe a personal loan, not promoting and having debt, but if you have several credit cards and maybe you have a store card, maybe you have an auto loan, that's a decent credit mix usually to be able to show that, okay, you have these different types of credit that you handle responsibly. And then I will say, start working with a lender early. So I will let Letty speak to that after I finish the last one. But we say start working with a lender early because all of this, there's opportunities in that. And it's best to always know where you stand. The lender can be able to help you. A lot of times you may not need to go work with a reputable credit specialist. They have people in office who can be able to help you for free. So Letty, can you help talk and speak to some of these credit report and score tips, please?
Yeah, of course. And these are some awesome tips and really useful information. So we're at a time right now, if you guys are considering buying in the spring, right now is actually the best time to go ahead and get everything reviewed, get your ducks in a row, get your pre-approval. Another misconception that people have is, well, I'm not ready to purchase until April or May, so I'm going to wait until then, to get my pre-approval done. In the meantime, I'm working on all of this. I'm paying down debt, which is great. But what helps is if you get your pre-approval, get everything reviewed up front. That way, if there is any, any inaccuracies, we can address them right away. But your pre-approval technically does not expire. As long as we just keep updating like the important information throughout the process, it won't expire. It's usually good now for 120 days, so 4 months. You get it pre-approved now. If you end up finding something throughout the, earlier than expected, that's great. But say we get to that 4-month mark, we would have to review your credit again. But the good news is, from what I've seen, as long as people continue paying, their bills on time, doing normal practices and good practices, their scores actually increase because that's 4 months of positive credit reporting history. So I've seen it gone up quite a few times. If we say, okay, we're going to update your pre-approval, we have to repull your credit. And when we do, it's actually a higher score than when we initially did it. But yeah, absolutely. About the inaccuracies, just to give you a quick example. What I see a lot is if you have the same name as maybe, your mother, father, or if you have a son with a similar name, sometimes their accounts can transfer over into your profile just because you might have similar things to cross-reference, like your name and the address. So it's always something that we can definitely clear up early on in the process. With our credit reporting agency, we have tools that will help you boost your credit score if needed. We have a very, very accurate simulator that we can use that will basically help us enter the data. Okay, what do we need to do to get this person to, a 640 or the next tier in being able to get a better interest rate. Sometimes it could be an easy fix, and this is a true story. 2 weeks ago, I had a client who was just below that tier into getting into like the excellent credit, tier, and all he had to do was actually charge a credit card $10. And we were able to boost his score in 7 days. So it was like, okay, go get gas for $10. And then in 7 days, he got, into the excellent credit score tier. So it's really accurate, pretty much 9 out of the 10 times it works. So we have the tools to help guide you through that process. With any other questions that you might have, say your credit report does need a little bit more work that's out of my scope. Say there's derogatory items on there, you can work with the credit specialist to help you clear those up, and you can be ready as soon as 30 days, 60 days. Again, but that's something that we would work with them too. We would work with them as a team and stay up to date to let them know, okay, this is where we need to be. How long is it going to take to get there? And usually it's not as expensive as some people might think. So there's definitely a lot of resources that we have, and that's what's always recommended, to start earlier on in the process. As soon as you really are thinking about it, you can do that. Another misconception that people have is like, well, my credit score is good, but I don't want to have that much debt by the time I have my mortgage payment. So I'm going to wait. I'm going to pay down my debt. I'm going to work on these things so that I have less monthly debt to think about. The good news with that is that you can pay that down during the process. You don't have to do that before getting pre-approved. For example, say you have 2-star credit cards that you really want to pay down. before you close on your home. Well, you can get pre-approved today with the expectation that those are going to be paid down. And by the time you close, we would verify the zero balance on those accounts, and it won't affect your score, it won't affect your approval at that time. So that's something that people can definitely do as well. So I've had a lot of clients that say that, well, I wanted to wait, I wanted to pay this car down to not have so much monthly debt. And it's going to take me 2 months to do it. Well, it's like, well, you can get your pre-approval now and then take 2 months, and during the process, by the time you close, that'll be paid. And we save time, and you were able to get out there and start looking and expanding on your search for the home. So that's some information. And again, if you want me to expand on any of these items, any of these points, just ask away any questions that you might have, or write them down, and we can discuss them in a dialogue after this too.
All right, so I'm going to go to talk about credit scores just a little bit. Like I said, we are not credit specialists. So there's two main models, and they're really competitors. There's the Vantage score and the FICO score, all right? And I'll kind of float between the two. But Vantage score, that was developed by the three major credit bureaus, Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion. And so really it's just another model to be able to determine and identify your payment. How do you handle your credit, basically, that is given to you. So there are just some differences. Vantage score ranges from very poor to excellent. And then I think for FICO score, we have poor to exceptional. Just those types of things, okay? Just those little differences. But each one of them have different variations. So Vantage score, there's 4 different algorithms that any creditor could use, any credit card company, any auto company can use to be able to determine if you're credit worthy. All right. And then with FICO, I think the main one used right now, I think, is the FICO 8 version, but I think they're up to like a 10th version right now to be able to. So the same way, any lender, any credit card company, any auto company, they can use any version. And so that may be when you check different ways that you check your credit report and you see your score, why there's some variation. So I know for Credit Karma, Credit Wise, usually that's Vantage score. So usually those are in sync when I check both of those for myself, and I can see everything going on there. But then my credit cards, I have credit cards that give me a statement. They give me my credit score for the month, and they use FICO. So then that one is usually different than the Vantage score. And it all has to do with what are they looking at in the percentages. So Vantage score, they're looking at your available credit. They're looking at your recent credit. They're looking at your balances. And this is the percentage. Your utilization, the depth of your credit, and payment history. Whereas if we go to FICO, they're looking at the types of credit used, and look at these percentages. They're a bit different. They're looking at new credit, 10%, length of credit history is 15%, total debt is 30%, and payment history is 35%. So if you think about that, really Vantage score, because it does take in consideration more of that available credit and recent credit, maybe in that different way, it's giving those people opportunity. And that's what they say on their website. They're trying to give those people opportunity who are new to building credit. And that's why you may see some variation. Then with FICO, it's more like, how long have you had these things and how are you doing with handling these things? Okay. So that's just to give you some information. You can also go to consumerfinance.gov website, and they also have great information. Or you can go to Vantage score website or FICO score. So we can dig in more in any type of consultation we talk with you. But for right now, that's just to kind of give you an idea of where that stands. And we've already reviewed credit tips. So from the lender, there's opportunities. Even if you look at your score on any of these avenues and say, I'm not sure I want to buy right now, but I can't. Let's talk to a lender. Let's see what the opportunities are, because there's things that they're the experts on it. They'll be able to help you and tell you, like, are you ready? Do you qualify? And if you're not ready yet, they'll be able to give you those tools and resources to be able to get you there. And us as your agents, me and Langston, we're there to help support you through the process. Okay. All right. So next is know where you are. So this is more about know where your money is. Okay. So I have another poll. So know where your money is. Do you have a budget? And I'm launching the poll now. So yes or no, do you have a budget? All right, we still got people coming in. All right. So we're at 67% has a budget and 33%, oh no, 75% has a budget, 25% does not. All right. So I'm gonna end polling. Thank you, thank you, thank you. All right. So as you can see from the presentation, you know, there's those different costs associated with purchasing a home that you need to consider. There's also your credit that you need to consider and take consideration. And if there's anything that you need to handle or take care of on your credit, kind of need to know if you got some money free to work with those things. So as we talk, let's look at these questions. You know, what are your current spending habits like? Do you track your current spending? Do you have an emergency account with at least $1,000? Do you have a budget? I put that out there. So some of us do, some of us don't. Okay, for us that have a budget, do you stick to your budget? Let's really be honest about that and think about that in consideration. And we're going to talk about how much house you can afford. All right, so all of these things are really important to consider when you're trying to make that decision about purchasing a home. So I am going to move on to the next slide. And all right, how much house can you afford? So Lety, can you let us know like what is taken into consideration when you are trying to figure out how much house we can afford?
Yeah, definitely. So with the mortgage, typically they're all fixed rate mortgages. So your principal and interest payment will never change. Once it comes to the biggest factor that might affect your payment as far as what fits into your budget will be the property taxes. So it depends on the type of property. You know, sometimes if it's a single family home or a condo or a townhome, they're all kind of assessed differently by the counties and to establish like what their yearly property tax will be. So, you know, just to give you an idea, if there's a property that has a $6,000, you know, yearly tax, then you're looking to pay $500 a month just in taxes. So, of course, with that comes lower, then your payment can be lower. So it really depends. We have to factor in what your monthly income is before all of your taxes are deducted. So your gross monthly income is calculated, which is why it's really important for us to gather all of your documents up front and thoroughly give you a good review of your documents and your information so that we can give you a very clear pre-approval. So, you know, this is your max on paper, according to the, you know, the lender and our guidelines that we follow and the program that you're in. Some are a little bit more strict on how much your total monthly payment can be, and others offer a lot more wiggle room so they can have a higher monthly payment. So the higher monthly payment translates into a higher purchase price for the home and taxes and everything. So those are the main factors that kind of, you know, aside from your personal goals, say you, what I typically like to do is give you an approval based on your max budget, you know, for loan compliance purposes. I'll say, okay, you can afford a payment up to this much, you know, but what are your goals? Where do you want to stay? Do you want to keep it a little bit lower? You know, were you thinking of less of a purchase price? And then we kind of go from there to figure out your budget and your goals. But biggest thing that we take into consideration is your income and how much debt you have. And that's just the debt that reports on credit. So not your utilities, you know, or anything like that. If you're self-reporting utilities, we don't consider those into your what's called the debt to income ratio to help determine your approval amount. But you know, there's a lot of different moving parts to it, but essentially that's what it would be. It would be your income and what you have reporting on credit. and then your new monthly mortgage payment, what that total will be. That will give us an idea of how much you can qualify for. Now, you might not want to go up to that amount, which is perfectly fine. That's where we come in to help you find the perfect home for you, for your budget, for your goals. So that's kind of essentially what determines how much home you can afford. I don't think we can hear you, Angel. Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
It is.
Always, you forget you're on mute. All right. So what I was saying was basically, I know all of us would prefer to be in house number 2 or house number 3 and not in house number 1, unless, you're interested in fix and flip. So we want to make sure that we do and take care of everything as needed and start working with our lender and our agent to be able to get there. All right. So as stated, if you have any questions, please put them into the chat and we will answer them. All right. So next is some budget tips. Okay. And the goal to giving these budget tips is so that you don't put yourself in a situation to where you're working hard, you cut your budget so bad that you're really not enjoying life, and that basically, you're stressed out, you're overwhelmed trying to work to get into a home. If you have to work so hard to where you're not still being able to enjoy life and enjoy some of the things you want, then something's wrong. My mom is a nurse. And so one of the things I always tell her, she can do case management and be fine. But then sometimes when she wants something, then she'll pick up some shifts working on the floor, and she does case management and she stopped working on the floor to be able to enjoy life more, right? But then, she'll have these big goals and she'll work really hard trying to pick up shifts and everything, and it wears her out. Well, you don't want to be house poor. You don't want to be working so hard trying to get into the house, and then you also working so hard to try to maintain the house. You want to be able to live in the house, okay? You want to be able to love the house and love your time. You want to think about your lifestyle in the home and what you want it to be like. But there are some things that we do need. Sometimes we just need to cut back on some things, because maybe we just go kind of over. So that's the point of trying to give these tips, to let you know, we understand that it's a big goal. We're here to help you through that goal, but you don't have to beat yourself up and stress out about getting there. Okay. So, and these are not in any specific order, except for I do think that if you do not have at least $1,000 put away for an emergency, I think you should work on that first. I know that is one of the baby steps for Dave Ramsey. And that has been I went through Financial Peace University years ago. Yes, I did say earlier I have credit cards, and now I know that is not part of his plan. But I did deter and do my own little plan a little bit. Okay. So, but definitely create an emergency fund and have at least $1,000 in there, because something is going to happen. Life happens all the time. So if you have at least that money in there, then you're prepared as while you're working on all these other things to be able to handle and address that issue. Now, if you have to use what I had found, what I had to do was, if I use some of that money, I need to refocus and budget and replace that money, because you don't want to use it and then keep going working on everything, and then you didn't replace it and you end up back in a situation. Okay. This talking from experience. All right. Yeah. All right. So track your spending. So like we said, some people don't have a budget. What will happen is within the next 48 hours, I'll send you a little freebie. And it's just, if you want to use it, use it. If you don't, that's fine. But it's just to be able to help you kind of track your spending and be able to create a budget that works for you. I would also say schedule time to work on your budget monthly. Now, when I don't schedule time to work on my budget monthly, that's when I see things come up and I may have forgot about, oh yeah, I set this on auto pay, or, oh yeah, I did this and I forgot about something. So, or because every month is not the same, That's, there's an unexpected expense that comes up and you got to be able to handle that differently. So you should schedule time to be able to work on your budget monthly. And then budget to zero before the month begins. All right. So that's one of the Dave Ramsey principles. Tell your money where it's going. So budget in for fun, budget in for some entertainment, budget in for those different debts and things like that. There's just those opportunities for different things to come up. So if you put that into your budget, then you know what's going on. You know how you're going to use that money. You're telling it where to go. You have your savings information in there, how much you're putting in your savings, everything. So it's best to do that so you don't have anything that you're kind of like, okay, you might just kind of blow it, spend it, or not use it as wise as you should. All right. Adjust your budget as necessary depending on the month. All right. So I would say, like I said, every month is not the same. If you have small children, back to school months, you need to make some adjustments for how you're spending. Christmas, if there's birthdays, certain holidays or certain months where there's birthdays and anniversaries and a lot, I usually get hit around May. And I get hit around August. So I have to go through it and I start kind of looking ahead. And then I know those months, like there's nothing extra much that I can do because I've got like all these birthdays and anniversaries and things coming up that I need to make sure I have the money to be able to fund those and still enjoy the time with my family and make sure I give, thoughtful gifts. That's important to me. All right. So identify opportunities in your budget. So for me, I'm someone I can go without TV sometimes. Me and Langston go back and forth on this because I cannot have like Netflix. I do have Hulu and I would like Discovery Plus. So I may give up Hulu for Discovery Plus just because I love HGTV and DIY Network and all those different types of things on there. But so I don't, and I have Amazon Prime because who doesn't have Amazon Prime? I like to get my items very quickly. So, but, there's those different people that have to have like Netflix, Hulu, those different ways for entertainment. So there's different opportunities to see, hey, I don't have Netflix, but for my children, my ex has Netflix. They use his Netflix. They use his Disney Plus. For my mom and my sisters, they share Disney Plus and some other things. So like, see how you can maybe negotiate with other people in your family and maybe share accounts if that's an opportunity. If you're a coffee drinker, maybe it's the opportunity to decrease your coffee content. I see, Lety. So I actually have reduced my coffee, but that was something I was just able to do. Like I started drinking more tea and I just started drinking less coffee. That was just something I was able to do. Not everybody's able to do that. Now, when it comes to other things, there's like my happy planner. That's one of those things, like I would rather have my items for my planner than my coffee. That's just those little things. So we have more budget tips, but Lety, do you want to chime in on any of these?
Yeah, so these are all like really, really great tips. Some of you might already have a lot of this stuff already in place, which is awesome, but it's always nice to have a reminder. More than anything, I think it's just, you got to hold yourself accountable, because it's so easy to kind of just overspend a little bit and be a little impulsive. If you have great self-control, then you probably don't have to worry about any of this, but really like all of these points are awesome. And it really is, about saving. When you're looking to purchase a home, you want to just save as much as you can when it comes to, things for the down payment and your monthly budget. I'm sure most of you already have an idea of where you would be comfortable with as far as your total monthly payment. And then keep in mind for your closing costs, you can always receive a gift from family, or someone close to you if they're willing to help you with some of those closing costs, and we can discuss that further in detail if you wanted to reach out directly and say, hey, my mom is actually looking to, she would be willing to gift me the funds for the closing. And it could be possible that they can give you all of the funds that you need for closing. That would be acceptable. So we can go over the details about that. But all of these are definitely great tips. Again, and you don't necessarily have to pay down all of your credit cards, because all we take into consideration as lenders is the minimum payment of, that's what affects your approval amount, would be the minimum payment reporting for that particular account. So say you have a $2,000 balance on a card. Well, we're only going to consider that minimum payment of maybe $35. That's what's going to affect your monthly approved amount, if that makes sense. So, but yeah, these are all great tips. I think the best thing would be to start definitely with a budget. Just kind of, when you put things on paper, I'm definitely all about the numbers, so once you put things on paper personally, it helps you realize like, well, I could definitely cut back here and I can cut back there. All these little things add up to a lot. So that would be one of my biggest things to start off with. If you don't have a budget, just, use that Excel sheet or anything like that. And there's a lot of templates online that you can look into, and just start plugging numbers in. And once you realize like how much you might be overpaying or overspending, you can start cutting back on those, and you'd be surprised how much you can save in a matter of a few months, and that'll put you in a great position to purchase. So again, any other questions about the credit or budgets or how much funds are needed based on your purchase point, definitely reach out to us, and me directly too. I'll be happy to help you with that portion of it.
Thank you, Lety. All right, so we are right at time. There's more budget tips, and we also have more budget tips, just because you know what, you can't have enough tips. Everything doesn't work for everyone, but all of these items will be sent in an email. Like I said, there's a freebie within the next 48 hours that lists these budget tips as well for you. I want to be respectful of everyone's time. So if anyone has any questions, I don't see anything in the chat box, but this is your opportunity to ask them. If anyone has any questions, I'll give it about a minute. Or if you would like to come off mute and ask your question, just speak it, because maybe it's too much to type. That's fine too. Just let me know. I feel like I need some music right here. No.
Yeah, little waiting music. Like Jeopardy music.
Yes, that would be great. There we go. Yeah. All right.
That's the best I can do with the voice.
Thank you, Langston. Thank you. All right. Doesn't look like we have any questions. All right. So here is our calendar for our upcoming online seminars. Next month, we will talk about down payment assistance programs and other programs. Here in Illinois, I know everyone is interested in the Smart Buy program. And so Lety will speak to that wonderful program that is giving people up to $40,000 for student loan debt. So, and she'll give the breakdown of that. April 15th, we have Achieve Your Goals for Home Ownership. And then May, New Construction Build. And then June, Refinance. So look forward to attending more seminars. We hope you enjoyed this one and hope it was informational to you. And hopefully when you receive those handouts in the next 48 hours, those will help you as well. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me and Langston. All of our information is listed in our emails, but as well, it'll be also listed in the packets, okay? So thank you again for your time. And we look forward to working with you. All right. Take care, everyone.